I can still feel the weight of that microphone in my hand, the cold metal pressing against my fingers. It felt like the whole world was watching me, waiting for something to happen, waiting for me to speak. The way it trembled, like it knew what was coming, like it had somehow anticipated the storm I was about to unleash. I remember how it felt, that small, almost imperceptible shake that ran up my arm, as if the microphone itself was terrified of the truth I was about to reveal. The church around me was grand, beautiful even, the tall arches reaching toward the heavens, casting long shadows across the room. The stained glass windows bathed the space in a kaleidoscope of colors, like some kind of otherworldly light had descended. The floor, patterned with vibrant hues from the glass above, seemed to dance under the weight of the moment. But despite the beauty of the space, despite the perfect design of the ceremony, I could feel the suffocating silence pressing down on me. The guests sat in their rows, impeccably dressed, the women with their radiant smiles, the men with their stiff collars and perfectly styled hair. Their faces were composed, their posture dignified, as if everything was as it should be. But I could feel the tension, an unspoken anxiety in the air. It wasn't just the weight of the occasion or the gravity of the vows about to be exchanged. No, it was something deeper, something darker, a dissonance between what was seen on the surface and what was felt beneath it all. This wasn't a scene of a joyous celebration. It was something else, something wrong, something that had been festering in the background for far too long. And then there was Caroline, standing at the altar, radiant, her white gown glowing in the soft light that filtered through the stained glass. She was a picture of innocence, a vision of purity. But there was something in her eyes, a wide, unblinking shock, a look of disbelief that had no place in such a perfect setting. Her body was stiff, almost trembling, like she was caught in some kind of trance. And beside her, Brad. He stood there like some kind of perfect statue, his posture immaculate, his smile a flawless mask, a display of control and calm. He looked serene, composed, the very image of a man in charge of his own destiny. But it wasn't his outward appearance that caught my attention. No, it was the way his eyes locked onto mine, cold, calculating, and unyielding. A silent command passed between us, an unspoken plea for me to stay quiet, to let this moment unfold as planned. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. In that moment, I knew that everything was about to change. I had to stop it. I had to stop her from making the same mistake I made all those years ago. And yet, as I stood there, microphone in hand, the weight of what I was about to do settled heavily in my chest. I could feel the weight of the room on my shoulders, the way everyone was watching, waiting for something, anything, to break the silence. The truth that had been clawing at me for weeks, for months, for years, was finally coming to light. And I was the one who had to say it. I wasn't supposed to be here today. I wasn't supposed to be the one to ruin her perfect day, her fairy tale wedding. She had dreamed of this day her entire life, imagining the moment when she would walk down the aisle, radiant and pure, the man of her dreams waiting at the altar. I should have let her have that. I should have let her have that perfect illusion, that fantasy where everything was beautiful and perfect. But something inside me, something deep in my gut, something I couldn't explain, told me that I couldn't. Not anymore. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was just a meddling mother, unable to let go of her grown-up daughter. Maybe I was overreacting. But deep down, in the deepest part of my soul, I knew I wasn't wrong. I knew this wasn't right. This wasn't love. This wasn't the life Caroline deserved. I watched her, standing there, so still, so compliant, her eyes locked on Brad like he was her whole world, and I could see it, even if no one else could. I could see the signs, the way she looked at him with adoration, but also a subtle fear, The way she had changed over the past few months, more withdrawn, more uncertain, like she was losing herself in the process of becoming the woman he wanted her to be. But no one else seemed to see it. Everyone else saw the perfect couple, the fairy tale romance, and maybe they were right. Maybe on the outside, they looked perfect. But I knew better. I had seen it all before. I had been in that same place once, and I had learned the hard way. I ruined her wedding, and if I had to, I'd do it again. I couldn't just stand by and watch her marry a man who didn't deserve her, who saw her as a possession, a prize to be won, a trophy to show off. I couldn't let her step into a life where she would lose herself completely, where her voice would be silenced, where her happiness would be determined by someone else's rules. She deserved better. She deserved so much better. But here I was, standing at the front of this church, my hand trembling on the microphone, knowing that once I spoke, there would be no going back. There would be no way to undo the damage. I could already feel the eyes of the guests on me, the silence that hung heavy in the air, waiting for me to speak. I knew that once I did, there would be no coming back. But I had no choice. I had to stop this. I had to protect her, even if it meant tearing down the illusion she had built for herself, even if it meant shattering the dream she had worked so hard to create. I had to save her. And if I had to ruin her perfect day to do it, then that's what I would do. Because sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that we must make to protect those we love. Even if it means tearing down an illusion they've built for themselves, even if it means sacrificing their happiness for the greater good. The truth isn't always easy to face, but it's necessary, and I wasn't going to let her live a lie any longer. He was the perfect guy on paper. Good-looking, successful, the type of guy you'd expect to see in a catalog, the kind of guy you could show off at a dinner party, the one everyone would admire. His tailored suit, his smooth talk, his perfect posture, everything about him screamed success. He had all the right credentials. He was polished, well-spoken, charming even. He was exactly what you'd want for your daughter if you were looking at him from the outside. But the moment he shook my hand, I knew something wasn't right. It wasn't just the firmness of his grip. It was too firm, too deliberate. It felt rehearsed, like he had practiced how to shake hands in front of a mirror 1,000 times. There was no warmth in it, no genuine connection. And the smile, oh, that smile, it was too perfect, too symmetrical. It didn't reach his eyes. The eyes are the window to the soul, they say. And his eyes told me nothing. Cold. Empty. Like he was hiding something. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew. Something was off. It was like there was a mask, and underneath it, there was something far darker, something I wasn't ready to face. But I didn't say anything. Not then. I wanted to trust Caroline. I wanted to trust her judgment, her choice. She seemed happy, and maybe that was enough. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe it was my own scars, my own past that were clouding my judgment. After all, I had made mistakes too. I had been wrong before. Maybe I was just projecting my own fears onto this perfect image of a man. He was everything she wanted, everything she had dreamed about, and yet I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something beneath the surface that wasn't right. He wasn't just treating her like she was his equal. No, he was treating Caroline like she was a trophy, something to be shown off, a prize to be won, displayed for everyone to admire. I saw the way he looked at her, the way he made sure she was always positioned just right, always looking just so. He was proud of her, sure, but not in the way a man should be proud of his partner. He was proud of the way she fit into his life, his image, like a perfect accessory to his success. A prize to flaunt, to boast about. I could see it in the way he talked about her. in the way he made decisions for her, in the way he subtly directed her actions. He wasn't asking her opinion. He wasn't valuing her as an equal. He was deciding everything, and I could feel it in the air. He was treating her like something to own, to control, but I stayed quiet. She was happy, after all. Or at least, that's what I thought. Maybe she was happy. Maybe she didn't see it yet. Maybe she couldn't see it at all. Or maybe she was so caught up in the fantasy, in the dream of the perfect relationship, that she didn't want to acknowledge the truth. After all, how could she? This was the man she was going to marry. He was the one who told her all the right things, the one who made her feel special, who showered her with affection and attention. He knew exactly how to play the part. But deep down, I knew. I felt it in my bones. I knew what this was. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe I was just too scarred from my own past to see the truth clearly. Maybe I was reading too much into it, overanalyzing every little detail. But I couldn't ignore the feeling that something wasn't right. That gnawing, unsettling feeling in my gut that told me this wasn't love. Love doesn't feel like control. Love doesn't feel like a performance. This was something else. This was manipulation, disguised as affection. This was a power play, a calculated move to keep her under his thumb. I couldn't ignore it, no matter how hard I tried. It was there, lurking beneath the surface. I couldn't speak up then. I didn't know how to. How do you say something when you're not even sure if it's true? How do you break someone's dream, especially when they don't want to hear it? How do you shatter someone's happiness when they're not ready to see the truth? So I stayed quiet. I let it happen. I convinced myself it wasn't my place to interfere. She was happy after all. But inside, I felt the weight of it, the weight of what was to come, pressing down on me. She called me first. I remember the way she sounded, the way her voice cracked with joy, so full of life, so full of love. She was crying, but not from sadness. She told me through her tears that it was tears of joy, and I could hear it in every word, every breath she took. She was glowing, absolutely radiant, like the whole world had just opened up to her. There was a kind of excitement in her voice that I hadn't heard before, a kind of pure, uncontainable joy that only comes when you hear those words. Will you marry me? The world had shifted for her in that moment. It was like everything had fallen into place, as though the universe had aligned, and she was exactly where she was meant to be. She was engaged. She was in love. And for a moment, I wanted to be happy for her. I really did. I wanted to share in her joy, to celebrate this moment as every mother dreams of doing when their child finds love. I wanted to be that supportive, encouraging voice, telling her how wonderful it all was, how beautiful this moment was, how lucky she was to have found someone who seemed so perfect for her. But deep down, beneath all the excitement, beneath the smiles and the words of congratulations, a cold wave of fear rushed through me. It hit me suddenly, sharply, like a slap to the face. This wasn't love. Not in the way she thought it was. This was something else, something darker, something hidden beneath the surface, something that wasn't right. It wasn't the kind of love that builds you up, that helps you grow. It wasn't the kind of love that supports you, that makes you feel safe and cherished. It wasn't the kind of love that celebrates who you are, that values your voice and your worth. No, this was the kind of love that was controlling, that was smothering, that was suffocating. This was a love that made you lose yourself, little by little, piece by piece. I could feel it, like a knot tightening in my stomach, like a warning signal going off in the back of my mind. But I didn't say anything. Not then. She was so happy, so full of hope, and I didn't want to crush that. didn't want to be the one to darken her world with the doubts that were creeping into my own. But I couldn't ignore the feeling. I knew that this wasn't the fairy tale she thought it was. I knew that this was a disaster waiting to happen, and I knew that I couldn't just sit back and watch it unfold. But what could I say? What could I do? I tried to be happy for her. I told her I was, of course. I told her all the right things, told her how excited I was for her, how lucky she was, how beautiful this was. I tried to show the same joy, the same enthusiasm that she was giving me. I wanted to be there for her in that moment, to support her the way a mother should. But inside, in the deepest part of me, I couldn't shake the fear that was gnawing at me. It was like a shadow, a dark cloud hovering over everything. This wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't a dream come true. It was a lie, a carefully constructed illusion, and I could see the cracks starting to form even if she couldn't. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, knowing what was coming but feeling helpless to stop it. I wanted to protect her, to shield her from the pain that was inevitable, but I didn't know how to do that without tearing her apart. How do you stop someone you love from walking down a path you know will destroy them? How do you stop them from making a choice that will change their life forever? This was the hardest decision of my life. The weight of it crushed me, squeezing the air from my lungs, making it hard to think, to breathe. I stood there, holding the folder in my hands, feeling its heaviness like a physical burden. Every second, it felt like it was getting heavier, as if the very contents inside were pulling me down. This wasn't just a decision about a wedding. This wasn't just about me standing in front of a room full of people about to make a scene. No, this was about my daughter's life. This was about her future. This was about whether or not I could protect her from a man who was capable of destroying everything she thought she knew about love, about trust, about herself. Do I stay quiet, let her marry him, and hope that everything will turn out okay? Hope that I'm wrong, that I'm just being paranoid, overprotective, that this is all in my head? Or do I speak the truth, expose the darkness I found, and tear everything apart? I could already see the fallout in my mind, the way she would look at me, the anger, the hurt in her eyes, the feeling of betrayal. I knew it wouldn't be easy. I knew I would lose her in that moment, at least for a while. She wouldn't understand. How could she? How could she see what I saw? How could she feel the same fear that gripped me when she was so blinded by love, by the dream she had been living? I didn't want to be the villain in her story. I didn't want to be the one who destroyed her happiness, who took away the life she thought she was about to have. But at what cost? Could I really stay silent? Could I stand by and watch her marry a man who could hurt her, who had hurt others before? A man who had shown his true colors and hid them so well that no one else could see them? Could I let her walk down that aisle and into a life of fear and regret? Could I live with myself knowing what I knew, knowing that I had the power to stop it, but chose not to? The folder in my hands felt like a ticking time bomb. Every second that passed felt like the countdown was getting closer to zero, the pressure building with each passing moment. What would happen if I didn't speak up? Would I ever be able to look at her again without knowing I had failed her? Would I ever be able to forgive myself for not protecting her when I had the chance? The fear of doing nothing, of letting her walk into this disaster, felt suffocating. It wasn't just a matter of speaking up. It was a matter of saving her, of keeping her safe from a future that was already written in the past, a future she couldn't see yet. Could I really do this to her? Could I take everything away from her, the life she had imagined, the dreams she had built? Could I shatter her belief in love, in trust, in herself? Could I destroy her happiness, even if it meant saving her? The weight of those questions felt unbearable. I knew the answer wasn't simple. I knew that nothing about this was going to be easy. But the truth was, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. I had to. I had no choice. I couldn't sit by and let her make the biggest mistake of her life, even if it meant losing her for a while, even if it meant hurting her in ways I couldn't even begin to imagine. I had to do it. I couldn't let her marry a man who could take everything from her, who could tear apart the person she was. I couldn't live with the knowledge that I had done nothing when I had the power to stop it. I had to speak the truth. And whatever happened after that, I would have to live with it. Because staying silent, letting her marry him, would be a far worse fate than the pain she might feel in the moment. It wasn't the justice I wanted. It wasn't the kind of resolution I had hoped for, the kind I had dreamed of in my quieter moments when I imagined how this story would end. There was no trial, no conviction, no grand courtroom drama where the truth would be laid bare for all to see. No public reckoning, no clear-cut victory that would restore everything we had lost. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the way I had envisioned things playing out when I first uncovered the truth. I had imagined justice in a different form, one that would right all the wrongs, one that would give Caroline the life she deserved, free from the darkness that had been waiting for her. I had imagined a day when Brad would face the consequences of his actions, when he would be held accountable for everything he had done, for every life he had affected. But that day never came. There was no public court, no legal retribution. But in the end, it's enough. The reality of what we have now, the peace we've found, is enough. No matter how messy, no matter how imperfect, we are free. Caroline is free. I never thought I'd see this day, never thought that I could help her escape the life she was about to walk into. But she's safe now. She's free from the man who would have controlled her, free from the danger that had been hiding in plain sight, and that in itself is enough. The freedom we have now, without the weight of that impending future, without the fear of what would have happened if I had stayed silent, it's more than I could have asked for. No, it's more than I ever expected. There are no easy answers, no simple resolutions in this kind of story. Sometimes justice doesn't look the way you think it should. Sometimes it doesn't come with a neat bow tied around it. Sometimes it's just a quiet moment of relief, of knowing that the worst is over, that the damage has been stopped before it could fully take root. I'll never forget the look in Caroline's eyes when she realized the truth, the heartbreak of seeing her face fall when she understood what Brad had been hiding. I'll never forget how my heart ached, how every fiber of my being wanted to undo the pain, wanted to take it all back and give her a perfect world where none of this had to happen. But that world doesn't exist. The world we have is the one we make, the one we fight for. And in that moment, in that room, I realized that the best I could do was make sure she had the chance to heal, the chance to find her own strength, to rebuild herself. So, no, it wasn't the justice I'd imagined. There were no headlines, no sweeping victories, no long-awaited applause. But we're free. We have a future ahead of us, one that's ours to shape, free from the shadow of Brad and his lies. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes knowing that she is safe, knowing that I did the right thing, no matter how painful it was, means more than anything else. This was the only justice we could get, and it's the only one we needed.